Welcome back to the Building Wealth podcast and our market commentary series. It's the end of May 2025, and one of the biggest financial stories right now is the U.S. federal court's decision to block Donald Trump's proposed tariffs. Tariffs that, had they gone through, would have reshaped global trade flows overnight. Let's break down what happened, what it means, and why this moment could signal a pivotal shift in international economic policy. Earlier this month, former President Trump announced a sweeping set of tariffs on goods coming from Europe and parts of Asia, citing economic emergencies and national interest under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. These tariffs would have hit a wide range of consumer and industrial goods, everything from electric vehicles and microchips to basic household appliances. But a federal court stepped in. In a decisive ruling, the court stated that Trump's use of the emergency powers was overbroad and inconsistent with statutory limitations. In other words, the legal mechanism he used was stretched too far. And just like that, the tariffs were blocked. Now, why does this matter? First, it brings immediate relief to businesses that were bracing for sudden cost spikes. Many small and mid-sized importers had paused contracts, delayed shipments, and started preparing for price hikes. That preparation is now being unwound, but not without some economic friction. Second, it signals a shift in how courts may view presidential authority over economic policy going forward. For decades, tariffs have often been used as a political tool, sometimes with minimal oversight. This ruling sets a legal precedent that could make it harder for any administration, not just Trump's, to use tariffs unilaterally without deeper justification. Third, and maybe most important for the average person, it may help stabilize consumer prices. Inflation has been a persistent concern in many economies since the pandemic, and additional tariffs would have likely led to another wave of price increases. With the tariffs blocked, we may avoid that surge, particularly in sectors like electronics, autos, and construction materials. But here's where it gets interesting. Trump's team has already filed an appeal aiming to push the case up to the Supreme Court. So while the immediate threat is neutralized, businesses are still operating under uncertainty. Some companies may remain cautious, wary of the legal yo-yo and what could come next. There's also a geopolitical angle. Several countries, particularly in the EU and Southeast Asia, had been preparing retaliatory tariffs of their own. With the U.S. tariffs blocked, those responses are now on hold. But it highlights how fragile the global trade fabric still is. Longer term, this episode may influence trade policy strategy in both parties. Rather than large sweeping tariffs, we might see a move toward more targeted economic tools, export controls, technology bans, or bilateral agreements, especially in high-stakes areas like artificial intelligence, green energy, and rare earth minerals. So while a tariff war may have been averted for now, the conversation around economic nationalism, protectionism, and global supply chain resilience is far from over. Thanks for joining us today. If you're a business owner, investor, or just someone trying to stay informed, understanding these legal and economic undercurrents is more important than ever. We'll keep watching this space closely.